Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cabin's Cash Flow and Closings, the show where real talk about real estate, financing, and short-term rental strategies here in the Smoky Mountain area. My name is Lisa Stepp-Seritt, and I've spent nearly 25 years in the mortgage industry, helping buyers understand how to structure financing the right way. And today I'm joined by Clarke Tefft, a realtor with the Powerhouse Group, powered by eXp Realty, and he's an integral part of Savvy short-term rental agents across the nation. Clarke specializes in short-term rentals in the Smoky Mountains here in Sevier County and the surrounding areas. On the show, we're going to be talking about what buyers, investors, and agents need to know before they jump into the short-term rental market. We'll cover the real numbers, the mistakes people make, and the financing side, and what actually makes a cabin or vacation rental a smart purchase. Today's episode is called, Is Buying a Smoky Mountain Short-Term Rental Still Worth It? And Clarke, I think a lot of people are still interested in buying cabins and short-term rentals, but they're also more cautious than they were a few years ago. Rates are different, expenses are different, and buyers are asking better questions. What are you hearing right now from buyers who are looking at short-term rentals in the Smoky Mountain area?
Well, first of all, Lisa, it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. I think one thing that I'm hearing the most about here in my area is it oversaturated? Um, is Are there still good deals out there to be had? But they are still excited about it. I mean, it's tough to not be excited about an area that drives 13 to 14 million visitors a year.
It's a lot of
So
people.
it is a lot of people, and now Dollywood being the most visited theme park in the United States. It's an exciting time here, and there are a lot of good opportunities here as well. So I'm seeing and hearing a lot of excitement, especially from all my clients.
Are you finding that buyers are a little bit more cautious than what they used to be?
I think they are. Yeah. I think that they're coming with a much smarter approach. They have a
Okay.
better idea on numbers. They have a better idea on what that needs to look like as far as their gross ROI and things of that nature. Yes.
When you start working with a client and they're interested in buying a rental, short-term rental, what is the first thing you try to help them understand?
Honestly, I think it's more their mental approach. The first conversation I have with clients, it's funny, is I tell them that human nature is a very powerful thing. So what will end up happening typically is they'll say, "Well, Clark, I want to do this, and I want to do it just purely based on revenue," which makes sense. That's why we're doing it, right? But then what I'll end up letting them know is at some point in time, and I'll remind you, but at some point in time, your human nature is going to kick in and you're going to start looking at this cabin as if you're going to move into it. And a lot of good deals are missed that way because there may be something in the kitchen they don't like, or there may be part of a layout they don't like. And they just need to be reminded that, these guests are coming in for 3, 4 a week, probably max at the most. And what's important is what is it going to take to drive that revenue? So the mental approach, first of all, is the biggest thing and probably at times can be the biggest hurdle as well.
Okay. So you just spoke a lot about revenue. I know there's a lot of different reports out there. Is there, how do you go investigate the revenue? Does the listing agent provide that to you? Is that information readily available, or do you have to kind of go seek it out?
A lot of the times I have to go seek it out. I'll put that work in for my client to see what the past revenue is. Although I will tell you, a lot of people may not agree with this. I don't focus so much on past revenue. I may
And
look
why
into
is
it.
that?
Well, there's a lot of factors. Great question. There's a lot of factors on why maybe 2025 numbers weren't as strong as they should be. It could be as simple as a bad host, that's self-managing. It could be as simple as a bad property management company that isn't doing any more than what you and I could be doing ourselves. Another factor could be that they bought a cabin in hopes, and I'll probably talk about this again, but in hopes that, they'll buy it, do nothing to it, hope that it maintains what it was doing or does even better the following year, and that's just not realistic. Not a
Okay.
client that I wanna work with by any means.
Absolutely. Okay. Um, I know what we do first out of the gate. If someone um, is looking at a property, we go and get the air DNA report just so we can see what the confidence level is, and it usually starts giving us some indications and some questions like, okay, why is this confidence score low compared to everybody else? And here we find out, because it gives you the opportunity to ask questions about that property. And like an agent that you specialize in short-term rental, um, just even educating the buyer as to what all the information on those reports so they know. And then we can dig into, hey, well, the confidence score is low because it's been listed for sale. So they shut down all opportunities for a nightly rental. And we run into that a lot. Do you see a lot of that, Clarke,
I do
with
see
some
a
of
lot.
these patterns?
Yeah, I do, Lisa. I do see a lot of that. I think to me, what's important if I'm buying a short-term rental, what I wanna know is I wanna know, I mean, yeah, maybe what it did in 2025, but it's 2026. I wanna know what is it gonna do for the remainder of 2026? What's it gonna do for 2027, 2028, 2029? The way to best do that is to go if you're gonna use a tool like AirDNA, sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not, but predominantly, if you don't wanna miss a good deal, the best way to do it is to whatever category you're talking about, whether it be a 1 or 2 bedroom, a 2 bedroom, a 3 or 4 and up, is you go on AirDNA and you find the top 5% of the cabins within that category that you're looking at. And you ask yourself, okay, do I have a proper design budget? Do I have a proper renovation budget to where I can then go in and make what I'm looking at or purchasing, can I match this top 5% and or even exceed it? If you
Okay.
take that approach to your short-term rental cabin, you're gonna win 100% of the time.
Okay. Now you just mentioned like a renovation budget. When you're working with someone, explain that to me a little more and what and why you recommend that.
Well, you have to have a design budget. I'll tell you this right now, a lot of, you may ask this later, but a lot of the times, what I don't like to see is I don't like clients to come in without a design budget. Now, whether they're gonna use a designer, which I recommend if they're out of town, or whether they're gonna do the work themselves, work has to be done to any cabin. So, and I don't mean to veer off, but, a lot of people will say, "Okay, Clarke, is your area saturated?" No, my area is not saturated. My area is competitive. If you want to win in this area, you have to be competitive, and that's where the design budget comes in.
Okay.
Amenities are critical.
And what type of properties are getting the most attention today?
The one with the most amenities. I
Does it
mean,
have
I'm sure.
does that mean it's a pool? Like what are some of the top amenities that everybody wants at the moment?
Well, let me ask you this question. You booked an Airbnb, right?
Yes.
Okay, when you go on to book an Airbnb, how many photos do you go through until you go to the next Airbnb? I'm gonna guess probably 4 to 6.
Yeah, because it depends on we have a large family and everybody's so different. There has to be a pool table. If
Okay,
there's a putting green, because we've got like 7 adult kids, and if they're all going, we have a lot of people to appease.
sure.
So, but I don't necessarily need the indoor pool. But location, fire pit outside, not so much a hot tub for me personally. Um, but it
I
just
will
depends.
I will tell you, Lisa, in my area, hot tub is a must. I mean, that's just something that has to be there. But amenities, see, the thing is you can design it right to the point where, for instance, a game room, right?
Hmm.
You cannot overdo a game room. There should be colors, there should be neon signs, there should be arcades, there should be things happening like you feel like you're walking into an arcade.
Oh, wow. And I've seen some of those, and
Yeah,
and some people do a great job with their arcades.
100%. My team leader, Brandon Thompson, does it every single cabin that he purchases because a few reasons. One, kids wanna stay there, and I'm not
Mhm.
gonna lie to you, Lisa, adults wanna stay there. I wanna stay in a place like that.
I still like playing Pac-Man. Yeah.
1,000%. You can't overdo a game room.
Yeah.
You should feel like you're walking into an arcade, but the remainder of the cabin, you can still have luxurious. You can still have a luxe feel and still accomplish both things at the same time. And a lot of the times, this is a powerful statement, I believe. A lot of the times, amenities can be stronger, even stronger than location.
I was just gonna ask you a question about location. What was more important? If you're if you're a hiker, does that mean you want to be in Gatlinburg? If you're, more about the island in Dollywood, do you need to stay in the Pigeon Forge area? Me personally, I've been in Tennessee for 10 years, still have never seen a bear in the wild, right?
Yeah.
I see them all over the face, all over Facebook, but, never been in a cabin, and you see the locked garbage cans, and there's bears around. So location doesn't necessarily matter. Interesting.
Location is important, when we start our search.
Okay.
It is important. I don't think that you should be any more than 15, 20 minutes max from the Pigeon Forge Strip. I don't think you should be any further than 35, 40 minutes to Gatlinburg. My point and my thinking is when I go and stay in an Airbnb, I wanna feel like I don't have to leave that cabin if I don't want to.
So, yeah.
And that means that I need that cabin to have everything in it that I could imagine. So that's why, going back to earlier, that's why your question about the design budget, renovation budget. When I say renovation, I don't mean tearing down walls and putting walls up. I'm talking about freshening the cabin up, updating it, contrasting colors on the cabinets, the wall behind the master bed. Paint can make a cabin a whole new cabin.
Oh, wow.
So things of that nature, when I talk about renovation and design work, that's what's critical in what we're doing. And so going back again to when I'm asked, is it saturated? If I were to ever say this area is saturated, I would say that it's saturated with cabins that clients bought, especially during the COVID era, with no intentions of then putting any of their money into that cabin to then make it competitive. So it's unfortunate that that has happened, but it's happening. And it blows my mind because I think, why would you invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into a cabin and then not protect your investment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's flip over to financing for a second. And, Clark, what
Let's
do you see as
let's
some
jump
of
into
the
your wheelhouse. Let's jump into your wheelhouse.
No, I don't want to jump into my wheelhouse. But what are some of the biggest mistakes you see people coming in and looking at, possibly purchasing their short-term rental, from a realtor perspective?
Again, just kind of what I said, and I can't emphasize it enough. I think the biggest mistake is you're coming in to buy an investment property to generate cash flow year in and year out. If you're coming in with no proper design budget, no vision on what you want your cabin to look like, how you want it to appear when they're scrolling through the Airbnb photos, then you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for disaster. So that would be financing. Make sure you have a design budget.
Okay.
Make sure that you know what you're doing. Don't go in over your head. Try to find out with me and my clients, I don't wanna mess with anything that I can't find a at least a gross ROI of 15%.
Perfect. Okay. And the ROI is return on investment.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, do you see a lot of buyers? And I like to always encourage them. You got to take the emotion out of their transaction, and that's easy for me to say because I'm the numbers lady, right?
But
Um,
that goes back to that human nature conversation we had
yeah,
earlier, doesn't it?
yeah. So, in your opinion, does buyers mostly underestimate, the expense of their short-term rental?
Not if they're with a good agent, no, ma'am.
Okay.
Not if they
Um,
have an agent that's running pro formas for them and knowing the costs and knowing what that looks like and what it's gonna take.
but in general, do you see mostly, they get excited about purchasing, and do they overestimate the potential income? Have you
Not if
seen
they're
that
with a good agent.
with a good agent? So,
Yeah,
I think the bottom line here is you gotta deal with a real estate agent that focuses on that type of investment, because
and
it's
and
different.
and focuses on their client and their client's needs, and has a full understanding of what their needs are.
Perfect. So, what are some things that, if anyone's listening to us out there, what should buyers ask? Do you before they start writing an offer?
I would say that, I would wanna know what the forecasted, revenue is gonna be based on the top 5% of that category, as mentioned earlier. I would also say that they need to be taught and known the steps throughout the process. Um, and I would wanna make sure as a buyer that I know that my agent is going to be there to hold my hand after closing. See, finding the property, underwriting the property is the easy part. The real work begins after closing. Is your agent going to be there for you? Are they a one-stop shop? Do they have the vendors that are needed throughout the entire process? Do they have a lender like you that going into it, you're gonna make it as smooth as can be? Do they have a cost segregation professional? Do they have all of those type of things that really make the difference? Because the launch of your property, the first year is always the most difficult year. I call that the establishment year. Probably won't be your best year, but it won't be a bad year. But do you have the professional photographers? Do you have things that are in place that your agent can say, "Okay, here's the first call we make. Here's the second call we make. Here's the third call we make. Here are some sources and some resources that I want you to call and interview to make sure that you're comfortable with them in what they're doing." Because that, to me, is when it can get emotional. That's when it can become a little bit stressful for that buyer. We've
Yeah.
located listen, we've located the property, we've underwritten the property, and we closed on the property. Well, now what do we do? Well, now
Mhm.
we have to launch the property, don't we? Now
Yes.
we have to create that cash flow. So and that's fun. That's fun part for me.
Okay. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. With these short-term rentals, a lot of people don't realize what type of financing is available. I get a lot of questions. Hey, I only have 5% to put down. Um, if it's a true nightly rental, it is hard pressed to find something that doesn't require 25% down. Do they pop up? Absolutely. Are they still hard to get? Absolutely. Because if you are an investor and you do not want to use your personal income, it all becomes about the revenue that property makes, which the Air DNA report comes in. Throughout the lending process, there's absolutely an appraisal and a short term rental dollar amount given by the appraisal, but a lot of times people just doesn't understand like the different financing options that are absolutely out there. You can finance them as a second home if you have enough income and assets to support everything. If not, it's called DSCR financing, debt service coverage ratio, which allows the 25% down, but that property performs all by itself. You're only bringing in your asset that is going to be the down payment and the closing cost in those loan programs. And they're absolutely phenomenal. And every day we're getting something better. If you are currently a cabin owner, we now have a second lien. If you have a low rate, but you want to go buy some more short-term rentals, now we have options. They give you a second mortgage on one cabin to go finance your other one. So that's actually really exciting. That's actually brand new. So Clarke, how does it help you as a realtor when the buyer has already talked to a lender who understands short-term rental financing?
Oh, it's huge.
And why is it huge?
Because it takes 5 steps out of the equation, and
Awesome.
they're comfortable knowing that they have a lender that they can trust. I mean, I would say probably over 60% of my clients are on a DSCR.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's easier, it streamlines, there's less
Yep.
documentation needed, all of that. And if the lender feels comfortable with that cabin based on how a DSCR loan works, that's just giving more confidence in the revenue that that cabin can drive. But
Absolutely.
it is critical that the buyer has a lender that they can trust 1,000%. There's no question about it. And then it's
And
critical that their lender and their agent work well together.
communicate.
Correct.
Um,
1,000%.
True story. I get a lot of loans because someone just fails to communicate. We got a closing date approaching, and the lender hasn't even provided a mortgage approval yet. I mean, I'm still kind of baffled sometimes
Yeah.
um, as to what happens out there. And sometimes we start at A, we may end up at Z, but you know, we do everything in the beginning. So we won't even talk to someone until like they're, do you have your documents ready? Because we're not interested in have our realtors go out and show property to someone who's not even qualified to buy that property. So, we just try to make sure we do, the right thing. Are you in the short-term rental market in Sevier County? Do you see a lot of like restrictions, maybe an HOA, is that pretty prominent?
It depends on the location you're looking for, and then it depends on how you do your underwriting with it. You definitely wanna be aware of any HOA. Are there developments here that have them? Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Um, in regards to, other factors that are important financially like that, um, if you're able I'm gonna get hated on for saying this. If you're able to self-manage, do not be scared of it. It goes back again, do your agents have the resources to be able to make that easy for you? Because you don't wanna give up 15 to 25% of your income if you don't have it if you don't have to. It's like paying taxes to the government. Why would you do it if you don't have to do it? And then you can keep control as well of the situation, and you learn through it as well. Learning is not a scary thing, it's a fun thing. So um, I would say that that is an important detail as well. You asked about HOA. What else did you ask about?
Just if that's like more predominant now, with these, because I know that there's different like communities.
Yes.
Some of them are owned by big conglomerates. Well, now they're starting to sell some of those cabins that, kind of fall into this little community. I've run across that, and, some restrictions there. If you buy this cabin, you have to use this management company, depending on
Yeah,
location.
I avoid those.
And I've seen that. And some management, it's just like everything. Some people are better than, others, but it's not, you just, I don't remember what your words were, but what did you call that first year? The first year is the most important.
The establishment year.
Yeah, the establishment year. And,
Yeah.
people think that, you're going to have to work it a little bit and make sure you work with a great agent like yourself that has that experience to help these buyers, when they get that process started. Most important thing when the process started is make sure you know what kind of financing you're going to go after.
1,000.
And I also, when you're dealing with a short-term rental, um, in a lot of people like to buy them as an LLC, which is totally allowable. However, when you're purchasing in the state of Tennessee a short-term rental, make sure you have a conversation with your CPA, your attorney, because you will pay tax annually on that revenue, because Tennessee is a tax-free state. They got to get their money from somewhere, so they're getting it from businesses. So that's always a little caveat that when I start my conversation with folks, hey, are you going to purchase this in your own name? You're going to put it in an LLC? Do you understand why you want the LLC, or can you just add an umbrella? So that could be a whole additional podcast.
Yes, that's a great
On those kind of things. But that's why you deal with people that, work within a short-term rental community based on state. What is the state law? What's actually in your best interest? And Clarke, just to kind of recap it, if someone's looking to buy in the next 90 days, what's your words of advice to them?
Let's make sure we got our ducks in a row. Let's make sure that, like you said, we're not too emotional. Let's make sure we're revenue driven. I mean, it's different if you want to buy a cabin and stay in it for, 3 to 4 months out of the year. I get it. That's a different approach. If it's revenue driven, let's make sure that we underwrite it properly. Don't be afraid of HOAs. HOAs aren't necessarily a bad thing because, street maintenance, landscaping, different things of that nature. Just make sure it's underwritten well, that's added in, and we know the figures. I would say some of the most important things to this game or this industry would be, don't shortcut on anything. Don't have a design budget prepared. Understand the importance of professional photography and why that is so critical when you're posting on Airbnb. Understand that, as far as cost segregation, that's a huge thing right now since the big beautiful bill was passed. So because of that, now people are coming more out of the woodwork saying, okay, now I want to get involved. Start now. You asked about the next 90 days. Start now. Do not wait until October, November, December and think that this is just going to be easy. It's not. As far as timing wise, it's easy to do, but don't wait. And you're going to make it difficult if you start in November. I'll just tell you that. It happened to me last year with like 10 different clients.
Well, what is really exciting is there's still a ton of opportunity in the Smoky Mountain short-term rental market. And, but the buyers who win are usually the ones who ask the better questions. They run
Yeah.
the better numbers, and they're surrounding themselves with the right people before they even get out there and start shopping. And Clarke, that's where you come in, your short-term rental market expertise. I bring the mortgage and financing side. So together we want to help buyers, investors, and agents better understand how these deals actually work. And if you're thinking about buying or selling or financing a short-term rental property in the Smoky Mountains, or actually pretty much anywhere, because you are part of Savvy short-term rental agents, which are nationwide,
Yes.
you can actually help them, in various locations.
Yeah, 100%.
And both of us would be happy to, help get you started, even if it's just a question and answer, a quick 15-minute phone call. So, Clarke, I want to thank you very much. I do want to bring up your contact information. So if anyone is actually, watching us here, the best way to reach you, Clarke, is on your cell phone. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And then there's also my calendar there if they want to go ahead and just book a time to chat, that they can do that as well, and then I'll call them whatever date, time that they chose.
Okay. And, if you're listening to us, if you want to book directly with Clarke, that URL is www.savvy, SAV as in Victor, V as in Victor, Y, period, realty /Clarke, CLARKE. And his phone number is area code 843-422-9060. Clarke, I want to thank you very much for joining me today. And, I love that market. It's very exciting. It's very exciting to watch people, even a first time investor, get in there, get it closed. And then, we continually follow up and how excited they are. And it's just really, a wonderful thing to witness when they do everything right in the beginning. So, Clarke, thanks again. And I'll talk to you soon.
Lisa, thank you.